You guys ready in the back? Cool. All right, good evening. I'm now called the October 22nd, 2024 meeting of the Ben Lapine Board of Directors to order. I would like to introduce our participants this evening. Directors Amy Tatum, Keena Chadwick, Cameron Fisher, and Shirley Olson. We also have Dr. Stephen Cook, our superintendent, Deputy Superintendent Dr. Lisa Burke, Katie Legacy, Executive Director of High Schools, Stephen Duvall, Executive Director of Middle Schools, Tammy Doty, Executive Director of Elementary Programs, Eric Powell, Director of Student Services, Jessica Gamby, that's correct? Yep. Okay, thank you. Pilot Butte Middle School Principal, Monica Hanson, Mountain View High School, what's up? And Heidi Thomas, Highland Elementary Dean of Students. And I am Marcus LeGrand, Chair of the Board. Did I forget anyone? All right, I think that was it. Cool. Oh, I'm sorry. Ooh, my fault. And filling in for Board Clerk Bojanowski this evening is Miss Marta. Is it Borger? Brogue. Okay, cool. I never had to say your last name. Okay. Will you please now stand, gentlemen, and remove your caps and join us on the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We'll now move to agenda item number 3, review of the agenda. Dr. Cook, are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes to the agenda.
Thank you. Fellow board members, are there any changes to the agenda? All right, hearing no request for changes, we will all proceed. The agenda is unnecessary, unnoticed. Thank you very much. All right, and I'm going to turn it over to the powers that be for our work session this evening.
All right, thank you all for your time this evening. In our work sessions typically last about 90 minutes. The goal is for our board to be able to dig into some of our practices a little bit and be able to understand, like at the roots, what things look like in our schools. And so today we are going to be talking about our Tier 1 efforts and the Student Code of Conduct. So our hope for this work session is that you walk away today with not kind of theoretical understanding of what things look like as we're talking about Tier 1 practices and Student Code of Conduct, but also that you see them in action in some of our buildings, how they have actually rolled out, and then be able to go through some scenarios. So we didn't share the slide deck with you prior to our meeting today because we want these scenarios to be a little bit of surprises so that you can kind of work through together on how we would utilize the Student Code of Conduct in service of students and support for students. So this slide deck will be posted afterward. So Eric will be sort of our master of ceremonies here a little bit. And at the end, you will also have a moment to be able to give your feedback to us using our newest rollout of our feedback tool. So we've just allowed that for all of our staff to be able to give us feedback on some of our learning practices and professional development. So you will be able to engage in that today as well, okay? So Eric, take it away.
All right, thank you, Lisa. And my wife was making fun of me. I'm so excited for the scenarios and then the twist at the end. So she's like, you got to get a hobby as well. But this is going to be organized a lot like the professional development we have at our schools. And so, like Lisa mentioned at the end, you can give us feedback on how this feels from the PD piece. But we're going to talk about some of our Tier 1 efforts at all 3 levels, elementary, middle, and high school. And then we'll do a quick review of the Code of Conduct, and then you all get to work as admin teams, and I'll explain that a little bit. So we'll start with our opener with Tammy. You want me to jump to the mood?
Yeah, go ahead and
I
go
gotta
to the
turn off,
title page. All right, so this is an activity from Wayfinder, which is our K-12 social emotional learning curriculum. This one is called a mood meter, and you were kind of leading into it a bit ago, Marcus, checking in, so he's kind of warmed us up. But go ahead and go to the next slide, Eric. So we all come to board meeting tonight, having put in full days of work. We all come with very varied experiences that we bring to the table. I think for some people around the room, we can say the last 2 days have been pretty full days compared to what they could typically be. And we all arrive with different levels of energy and pleasantness to what we do. So I just want you to take a moment and kind of look at these 4 quadrants up there and kind of think about what quadrant you're feeling right now, what level of energy and pleasantness you're having. And then when you kind of have landed in a quadrant, why don't you put a thumb up so I kind of know when we can move on. All right. Within each of these quadrants, though, there are a huge variety and a continuum of levels of energy and pleasantness. So go ahead and go to the next slide, Eric. So now going to the quadrant that you chose, and if you can't read it, I have visual supports. So if you would like, you could take one and pass it around if you want one. So looking up there or on the paper, kind of how are you feeling right now? Like go to that quadrant that you leaned into and then choose one of those words that is how you're feeling today. And then when you have that word, we're going to do a quick go around the table, and all we're going to do is say our one word. And then we are kind of doing this check-in with each other and kind of have a sense of where we're all coming from and how we're feeling today. So take a moment and choose your word, and then again, thumb up when you have that word. Okay, last little thumb check. All right. Okay, looks like we're all ready. So is there somebody that would like to start? And then we'll go to the left of that person. Thanks, Katie. Inspired, okay.
Should we start again?
I'm feeling inspired.
I am feeling restless. I'm feeling peeved.
I'm feeling pleasant.
I'm feeling optimistic.
I'm gonna be that kid. I'm feeling inspired and sleepy.
I am feeling apprehensive.
I am feeling fatigued.
I'm feeling drained.
I'm feeling all of it, to be honest. I'm like right solidly in the middle, but restless, proud. Yeah, let's go with that.
I have to agree with you. I'm a little in between the middle. There's a lot going on to handle mentally right now. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm between despondent all the way to carefree, so I'll just be fatigued.
Say restless and energized.
Mark doesn't want to play. I'm feeling chill.
I'm jittery.
All right. So on that quick little check-in, we can see that we were feeling just about every quadrant, one place or another, for a variety of reasons. So that kind of gives us all a sense of kind of how our group is feeling today and how we're showing up. So, and with that, let's lean into the activity or the first thing.
And
Take it
thank
away,
you, Tim.
Heidi.
And so, yeah, so Heidi's going to speak in each of our 3 levels. We'll just talk about kind of how they rolled out and worked through their tier 1 processes this year. So Heidi, go for it, and then just let me know when to switch slides.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me to do this. It's kind of my jam. I like this sort of thing a lot. It gets me very excited. So I told Tammy, I'm like, you have to be my timekeeper because I'll talk about this stuff for a long time. At Highland, we have, well, in elementary, just in general, across the board, we have the 3 rules that you'll see up there, that we are safe, kind, responsible, and then we were tasked with the 4th thing that can be kind of original to your school, and we chose and we belong. And that piece really comes, and I'll talk a little bit more about it in a minute, around our school working really hard to create a sense of belonging, and doing that through honoring dignity and really teaching our kids and our teachers and our families what that means and what it looks like. So we do that integrating it with Wayfinder. There's a lot of Wayfinder activities and lessons that blend in well. So I can speak to a little bit more about that too on the next slide. We also have a matrix that you see up here. That is one of many pages of our rules matrix. And what we have moved away from is doing a rules rodeo where everybody goes out to the playground and they go from section to section and learn how to do each part of the playground. And we found that they weren't retaining that information. It wasn't carrying over into the day-to-day. And we've moved more towards using this matrix. I have a whole document, tier 1 document, that helps our staff know, what are our tier 1 practices and what do we do? And a big one is using this matrix, going out on the playground with your class and teaching them one area, or going, walking the halls and practicing what we expect in that area. And that's not a one and done. It's something that we expect happens throughout the school year. We all know that there's different times of the year where we're like, whoa, we need to revisit how we walk in the halls. We need to revisit how to play Gaga Ball. There's so many different things that, always Gaga Ball. I know. I need a Gaga Ball coach if anybody is looking for something. It's if you don't know what Gaga Ball is, it's dodgeball in a octagon. Yeah. So yeah, it's something. Come play. I will. Yeah. New coach. We've got a new coach. Yeah. Up here you'll see one of our kindergarten teachers. That's Michelle Watt. She had created an Imagine statement with her class, and the first Wayfinder lesson is all about co-creating the expectations for your classroom. And so she took that lesson and then turned it into an Imagine statement, which is part of our belonging and dignity work too. And it's where it all crosses over and works together really well. And that's something they read together every morning as a class, and you can see all their cute little signatures at the bottom. They've all agreed to this, and just imagine coming to a classroom where we all are welcome and everyone belongs. That's how they start their day. And they truly believe that. She has them close their eyes. I want you to truly imagine this happening, because sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's not a place where everybody's sharing with each other, so they really try to put it into place by imagining that can be true, and through lots of practice. Did I cover everything? The school expectations are all tied into the matrix. They're posted all over our school, that sign that you see. And then we have other ones that are more specific for the halls, for the bathrooms, different areas of the school as well. Oh, and then the blue parts, that's something I forgot to talk about. We're working on making videos with staff and kids that are specific and explicit around those areas as well. So teachers can click on that and use that as a talking point too. Okay. That book, Belonging Through a Culture of Dignity, is not new to a lot of people, and that it's been a really great book study in partnership with the Coburn Department of High Desert ESD. It's one of the best PDs I've ever done, and it inspired me to bring it to our school. And we use that. I use that a lot when I'm problem solving with kids too. This is what honoring dignity looks like. Do you think we honored dignity or violated dignity? That's really great. Teachers are doing Wayfinder Wednesdays as a Tier 1 practice. Our school counselor just started at our school, and she's amazing, and she's pushing in and also teaching some of the Wayfinder lessons to classes with the kind of co-teaching with teachers. Using the language, and framework of dignity and belonging in the classroom and at assemblies. We've moved away from character traits, as that's been kind of a traditional focus, and more towards the 10 elements of dignity. And what we do is we have the teachers break their class into groups, and acceptance of identity was the one, it's the one that we're just finishing up right now. And they name, depending on how many kids are in their class, 4 to 6 kids, and they're the dignity experts for that 6 weeks between that first assembly and the next assembly. And so they are the ones that are modeling it, they're learning about it, they're teaching other kids about it. And the hope is that they will share some of that knowledge too at our assemblies, so as we're growing this. We also honor them. They get pizza with the principal the Tuesday afterwards. So just trying to celebrate all kids in as many ways as possible. Along with those dignity elements, so the focus this time, that's my daughter up there, Poppy, and those wings are in our hallway, and teachers can use it to take pictures of their kiddos. It's based on the book Perfectly Norman, which is very much about acceptance of identity, and so just pushing out as many lessons that we can find that teachers can teach with their class. The stakeholders, that's a big one. Students and staff is where we started. And this year I'm working with our PTO and different parent groups to push it out to our families so they know what we're doing, how to talk about it with their kids as well. And that last little bit is Summer Snyder. She works with Floyd and John, the authors of Belonging Through a Culture of Dignity. She worked with us all last year, helping to bring this to our school. And that's a huge part of our Tier 1 work that we do. I think one more slide. The data pieces of it. We use an FYI. It used to be called an OOPS slip, and we moved away from that as well. We found that it was being used as like punitive discipline. Like, I'm gonna write you up. You just got an OOPS slip. Like, that doesn't really change behavior, right? But we needed a way to track behavior and track things that were going on and communicate it just to the teachers, and especially if something happens on the playground. So that's where the FYI came into play. New this year, we know that the code of conduct and being able to track this is going to be happening in Synergy soon. And so we switched the language in our FYI to be the teacher handled more of the Tier 1, 2 things that happen, or violations of the, what is that called? Conduct violations, there we go. Conduct violations into our FYI. So that's becoming familiar for our teachers as well, to see that language and use it and really know what it is. And it's great because then that is our data. And we can take a look. Just before this, I was meeting with what's called our Culture of Care Committee at our school, and we look at the FYI data as a school, like where are the most FYIs being written? And it's classroom and recess. So what do we need to do in those areas to bolster up our Tier 1 systems so it's working. And we also have a care team, and that really is looking at, that's like the more of a tier 2, like we're looking at the kiddos that need the help. So that is a lot of what we do. We just started something new also called Peacekeepers. I got very excited. Hold on, I'll show you. I brought props. Some 4th and 5th graders are applying to be the peacekeepers on the playground. We have a morning recess as an all-school recess, new this year as well. So we have K-5 kids all out there together. So we'll have 8 4th and 5th graders that can be the peacekeepers and the problem solvers. So they have their notebook, and In here, it has, you know, how to make an apology, so they just have some sentence stems and I statements, and then they can take notes in here. So they are currently in the applying for process. They'll, thought I left it in Tammy's office. They get to wear this. Yes, so that they are seen and they know who they can go to for help out on the playground. So there we go. Whew. Yeah, it's a lot. And we're doing so much more than that. Those are the main things.
And thank you, Heidi. And for me, whenever I go to our level leaders meetings with all their principals, they often will have schools share out what they're doing. And so hearing from Heidi, and I imagine at the middle school and high school level, it's awesome to hear what you all are doing. And so I'm taking notes too, to be like, oh my gosh, I hope that other schools are doing this too. So thank you for sharing that. And Jessica, Stephen, I want to cue you all up to kind of do the same kind of presentation for middle school, but we have yours, and tell me when to move forward. So.
Hi. Bear with me today. I'm working through remembering everything right now. So where I really want to start with Pilot Butte, I really am excited to talk about all the things that we're doing. We've made a lot of big shifts in the last 2 years, and continuing that work to really solidify our systems, especially our Tier 1 and Tier 2 systems across the school. So I'm going to go back a little bit, but where we started was getting that baseline of our school-wide systems. Last year, we really focused on our disciplinary systems and our looping back with staff and having those consistent expectations across the board. And then now we're moving into what does that look like as far as how we're building from our master schedule and those types of things. So I'm going to talk about that, and then our PBIS, how we're doing expectations in class competitions and bringing some of the goal is to bring some of the fun back to middle school. Tie-dyed shirts with our staff in the beginning of the year. I got all 3 colors. Every color represents a different grade level. So 6th grade's orange, 7th grade's blue, 8th grade's hot pink. The staff picked them. They picked team names. We do every staff meeting and every SIW, we do games with the staff that adds into our overall school-wide grade level competitions. And some of them, especially 6th grade, really take off, and they have like a whole display with their orange, and they're really going with their theme. So it's exciting. And then also how we're pushing in our Wayfinder stuff. So we can go. Thank you. So last year I worked with, I got input from pretty much every staff member as we were moving towards looking at what we wanted to get for our goals for this year, as far as setting that baseline for our master schedule this year. And with those teams, and then the focus team that volunteered to do that with us, we pulled out these 3 goals for us. So having common planning time for teachers, so we can start building some of the student response intervention systems, seeing where those needs are, so teachers have that together. The focus on really focusing on and how do we make that soft landing pad for 6th graders, because personally, I think the shift from elementary to middle is a bigger shift than middle to high. It's a big jarring situation. So what are those intentional moves that we can make? And then expanding our elective options and intervention opportunities were our 3 goal areas. So with that came a lot of things. So with our master schedule, the other piece that was kind of coming through was that our 6th graders especially fatigue throughout the day. It's not great to have math 7th period. So we really were trying to work our schedule so we could have 6th graders have a gradual release of those expectations. So 7th period is our 6th grade core teacher prep period. All of our 6th graders are in either a PE class or a rotating elective at that time. And then our 7th and 8th grade teachers are in preps with content areas. So they're able to have that planning time and be able to look at common formative assessments and those types of things. Got those too. So the 6th grade programming was the other big lift as far as what our main schedule looks like. And looking at how do we get sixth graders more of that exploratory option as they go into 7th and 8th grade. As an MYP school, we have other requirements that we have to have with language and art electives. So how much of we wanted sixth graders to be able to tap into a bunch of things. So they're the only ones that are on a quarter system for that exploratory wheel that includes a music and an art. And then we also wanted to have a way, knowing that we had over 50% of our incoming fifth graders at a reading level that was below grade level, we wanted to do more of a, like taking from the high school model of a 9th grade, or like a freshman foundations, but a 6th grade foundations class. So our design criteria, which is also part of our MYP, has become, it's kind of owned that area. So it's kind of a get your life together as a middle schooler class, really. So they're talking about goal setting. They have planners. Our 6th graders are the only ones that are using planners this year. We're piloting that with them. What does organization look like? How do we go through grade checks? How do we access all of that stuff? Because middle school also introduces Canvas, which is new. And then additionally, they're also working through the Read 180 program within that. And that teacher is able to do small groups and kind of differentiate and do some of the whole group stuff with them as well. So all of our 6th graders are getting kind of a reboot of that early foundational reading, because they pretty much all needed it. And then the other piece that we did was focus all of our 6th graders into one building. Pilot Butte has 6 different buildings across campus. So shifting teachers, we started that work last year, really made it only 6th grade classes are in one building, so they have one soft landing pad, and then they could go out to electives and those types of things are in the other areas, and all of their lockers are bulked in that building as well, and then another little building instead of spread out across campus. So that's the intentional move to try to make things a little bit easier for 6th graders to transition in there. The other piece was looking at what does our bell schedule look like and how do we reduce transitions, because that's always a question for middle school. They have a lot to go through. As far as the MYP content requirements go, 7 periods was really the smallest that we could make it. So we took away the daily advisory, the little chunk of advisory, so we're pushing a lot of that stuff in, and I'll talk about what that looks like with the Wayfinder. So we just have those 7 classes that we're going through. And then the other piece was adding in our flex schedule. We hadn't had a flex schedule, our flex period, until this year. So our giant time on Wednesdays is our flex time. And then the other piece with Wednesdays are always, like I always call it the curse of the Wednesdays. Wednesdays are always a little chaotic. So really dove into how could we minimize transitions on Wednesdays and still have this opportunity for clubs and for interventions if we need interventions, and this place where we can really build that student belonging and teacher connection with kids at that time. So we were able to figure out a way. I mean, I honestly fell asleep to seeing shapes and colors and numbers for like 2 months, but it took me a while. We figured it out. We have a rotating block on Wednesdays where their classes rotate through the different block periods, and then they have 5 periods. And overall, it's actually very much calmed the feel of the school on those days. Some kids complain that their classes are longer. They're not 30 minutes anymore like they used to be on Wednesdays, but overall, we've had a lot of positive, it's worked well. It's been very positive. The single lunch has been fun. If anybody ever wants to see what that looks like, you're welcome to join us. We do half in, half out, and that's fun. So, yeah, that's the next one. So some of the other fun things, we have we're still building a lot of what this looks like, but are bringing PBIS, like the standard PBIS stuff back. We've had giant pride tickets. We're shifting those a little bit with our MYP school. We have learner profile traits. So kind of elementary model where there's the character trait for each month. We have learner profile traits for each month that we've assigned out. And our Student of the Month focuses are around those learner profile traits. Our Giant Pride tickets for that month are around those learner profile traits. We do Friday drawings where they get to come get a treat and they get all excited about it. Last month was caring. That was September's month, and those are 3 of our 6 winners. We do 2 from each grade level. And then that's our leaderboard. 7th grade's in the lead right now as far as our class competition points. And then also the expectations and classroom agreements and those rules are all pushed into our core classes. So we rotate through which content area are doing it. So we're also getting a piece for everybody to have what that looks like within their content area, which if you go to the next one, is that Wayfinder? Yeah. So that really connects more with Wayfinder. So the Wayfinder, with not having an advisory, the way that we're connecting all of those pieces is we dedicate SIW time to our grade level teams, which is also part of our goals, having more PLC time for our teachers to work together. But there's a lot on here, but we built out the Wayfinder lessons and then objectives and then what skills they correlate with, and then what that looks like with the MYP focus as well. So when we're looking at caring, we're connecting with what those Wayfinder lessons are. And then we also have ATL skills. Right now, I couldn't tell you what ATL means, so I'm sorry, but it's important for MYP. That's where my brain's gonna cut me off. So, but we're working with those grade level teams, so they are having time to talk about where the specific lessons will fit more appropriately within which content area. So they're kind of rotating through and how they can make that more meaningful within their content rather than a standalone lesson that's happening in an advisory class. And that also connects with our monthly, my brain cut off again, the monthly thing I was talking about earlier. Sorry. Yeah, there we go. I think I got it. Thanks, I'm done, I made it, we got it.
And Jessica, thank you. And I'm taking notes as you're talking too, but just all the preventative things you're doing with the schedule and all that, like that leans right into tier 1. But I worked mostly in middle schools, and the fact that you fixed Wednesdays, I'm like, wow, I wish I had known that back then. So,
Well, come tomorrow.
yeah, we'll check it out. Yeah, we'll check it out. But thank you for sharing everything, and thank you for all your work and leadership this week. And so Monica Hansen's also here from Mountain View, my former high school. Heidi's too, right? There you go. So take it away, Monica.
Quick question. Do you want us to hold questions for individuals till the end, or should we, what works best?
Let's see. I think we have some freedom. We're going to do the scenario at the end, but maybe let's let Monica go, and then we'll talk through the administrator piece if that works.
Hi, I'm Monica Hansen. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and it is a delight to be with you all tonight. I actually didn't know if it was going to be presentation or otherwise, and for me, since we're all together in this format, just interject with questions as we go through, and enjoy. This is going to be awesome. All right. So I realized early on that we didn't have any cute elementary school pictures, but we have our kids graduating, so there we go. You did, and it was great. And so tonight we're only going to have time to really go over some of our highlights and the tier 1 systems and structures that we're really excited about. But we've been iterating upon tier 1 for a while now and continuing to think about what is the next step to support each and every one of our students at that tier 1 level, as well as how are we incorporating teachers and parents into that, especially as MTSS or multi-tiered systems of support for some of our staff is still a new concept, a new idea. And we came in with we have tier 3, we have tier 1, sort of, and kind of trying to build those systems slowly and surely. So before I jump into the main components that I was going to discuss, I just wanted to say we started in August in in-service going over all of these tier 1 implementations, some review, some new with our staff. and then used class meetings to introduce and launch any new programs we had with students, as well as having them embedded into classes. I think Heidi brought up a really good point of it's not necessarily just how you launch. You can't say we're going to do this one thing in September and then see it throughout the rest of the time. So we've been really intentional about how we're embedding Tier 1 SEL, our values into the school throughout the entire year. And so I was about to flip to the next slide, but I realized I'm not on it. And so MV Cares is at the core of everything that we do. It is our foundational framework and common language we use to talk about the type of students and people that we want in our Cougar community. This started when Hicks became principal of Mountain View, working alongside teachers to figure out what were these traits and values, characteristics going to be. Over the summer, we updated them, looking at the newly given ODE SEL standards, as well as the 6 core characteristics of Wayfinder, to really embed and fuse all of that together. We developed essential questions so that when we're engaging in conversation with classes and individuals, we could start there and really make it student-friendly and objective enough, where right now we're in the process of building rubrics for each letter so that we can dive deeper with our students about what does collaboration look like as a student in 3rd period math, but also what does collaboration look like as a thriving adult? What is that going to look like in your concrete next step after high school, and how do you carry this on? Because it's not just about that compliance piece. It's not just about you being nice in the halls. It's about the type of person you're going to be. And so we'll talk about going through how we're embedding this into monthly advisories. But, and I forgot my prop, and I'm very upset that I did. But we use this through our positive behavior incentive system as well. And so when students are showing or exhibiting these traits, we have teachers write down, oh, that was a great example of agency. The bottom part of this sheet that's this size, the bottom becomes a raffle ticket that goes into a monthly drawing for fun prizes. It's interesting to see what freshmen like versus seniors. And then it also gives an opportunity in the classroom to raise awareness to all of the good modeling and the fact that we're seeing so many great things happen every single day with our students. And then the top of that goes home as a postcard to parents. So we're also celebrating with parents that they have these students doing these incredible things every single day, and that's contagious. And it really starts building that momentum of, oh, I am part of this huge community that is loving and has these skills that not only make me a good person, but also a successful person. Talking about college and career and what that looks like. And so if Eric goes to the next slide, this is our advisory schedule for the year, broken in by month. And the way we are putting this together is we come in, we focus on one of the traits. In November, for example, we're focusing on empathy and tying that in with our Sparrow Community Service launch. So we're going to say empathy is how are you thinking about how perspectives or other perspectives are impacting these choices? How does empathy play a role in your decision-making process? We're going to use, embed Wayfinder activities, Mr. Indifferent. It's a really cute one. I recommend it to watch. It's very simple. It looks like it's made from Pixar. And then they're going to see that. And then at the end, we're always going to celebrate and lift up the students that have won the raffle or had really special things. So on September 26th, we had our first one, which was holistic around MV Cares. And we had 3 kids that found a wallet at a football game that immediately brought it to us. And a freshman who was in tears, it was their wallet. And anyway, it was really sweet. It's like, this is the type of stuff that we want to rise up and celebrate. Because too often, especially at the high school level, the phone calls home and the attention is brought on the very few that are not making the best choices in that moment when there's so much good. We also have every month actually every week we have an MTSS committee that comes together, and we're tracking data in the form of youth truth surveys, as well as the Waypoints assessment. We're doing it on Tuesday, and then we'll do it in May as well to see how they've progressed on MV Cares. And then we're using the Synergies early warning system in the MTSS module that's brand new this year to really track, are these tier 1 systems and policies in place actually impacting the student? Are we able to see trends of our student body as a whole having more success, but also for subgroups that have disproportionately found less success in our community? Are they doing better? And using that data to really drive things forward. And then the last bit are these 2 resources that we've been using. Oh, sorry, yeah. School Links. This is our second full year of using School Links, which is a college and career planning tool. It's awesome. And our counseling team is extremely strong, and they have really pioneered making sure that we have guaranteed instruction on graduation requirements, resources, and post-high school planning. And so every 9th grader, 10th, 11th, and 12th gets push-in instruction and time on School Links, as well as opportunities to either one-on-one or in small group talk about their high school planning and how that's going to impact their next step afterward. And right now, actually last week we did this, it was at 79%. Now we're in the low 80s for the number of students that are in School Links because of those interventions, because of that tier 1 guaranteed instruction of pushing into classrooms. And Tuesday we hit seniors again. So our goal is to get closer into the 90-95% range. And the coolest new fun thing we're doing is a digital hall pass. This is something that we've been talking about. Oh, no, it's just on the left. But this is this reaches 2 primary goals. First and foremost, making sure our students are safe and accounted for at all times in our building. And secondly, ensuring that we have an emphasis that every single instructional minute matters. And every time you are in the hallway, you are losing out on your learning. And that's something that we care about and we highlight every day through Securely Pass. And so students are learning time management skills and time awareness because they literally have a fancy timer on their iPad as they walk through the halls. And it gives us a really good idea of how much time is spent outside of the learning space. We're tracking, and it's already gone down by a minute, the aggregate amount of time students spend out in the hallway. It has been a game changer, and our hallways just feel so much better. And then we can also see individual data and set goals with students and put together some scaffolds to support them if they are struggling with not being in class, because we really care about their education and know that in the classroom, that's when the learning is happening. These were just a few of the highlights of our Tier 1 policies, but more than open to take any questions, and just come on by Mountain View and see it live.
And yeah, Cameron, if anybody has any questions for any of the 3 levels, like, let's go forward and we'll move on after that.
Okay, thank you very much. One question I had was the advisory shift. And is this happening, is this like a pilot year, or is this for here on out, for Pilot Butte Middle School and for other middle schools, or, yeah?
I think it was just us because of the MYP piece. So there was a component of because we have all these extra not regulations, but expectations with MYP, how can we lessen that transition time with all of these other pieces? Because we do have that design requirement, we have the language requirement, we have the elective requirements, and it just stacks all of those things on. So we were trying to look at what other ways can we approach this that is a little bit more manageable for our students and manageable for how we're moving through our day.
Okay, thank you. And so I think if I was tracking that correctly, that it's so far so good.
Yeah.
And welcomed shift.
Yes, and I think that there's, with dedicating, how we're dedicating intentionally time for planning that as PLC teams at our SIWs, that's, the staff are being able to own some of these things a little bit more in ways that they weren't previously because they were in this kind of siloed checkbox that they were doing. And there, I think that's always kind of that balance with this is this really great curriculum that we really want to do, and how do we incorporate it in an intentional and relevant way for our staff and teachers. So we're really looking at how can we provide them time to work on it, and what does this look like in our school that is an intentional move for that.
Okay, thank you. And I really love the tie-dye shirts. When I was there, the sixth graders were the most proud of their shirts. And then Monica, thank you so much for, I love the focus on student agency and this kind of recognition for kids doing good things, right? And I think especially at high school, I mean, it's so easy to do that at elementary, but at high school is so valuable. So thank you so much for emphasizing where that's happening. And I am curious about the digital passes. I love the idea. One of the things that immediately pops to mind is there some kind of, I don't know whether accommodating or whether consideration for, and every minute counts, right? When kids, in particular, I'm thinking of kids who are trying to access those all gender bathrooms and also mental health supports during time with they're using that digital pass. And so how do you track that to, have accurate data?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's on the dashboard in the system, and I would be more than happy to show you, there's a comment section and the ability to say this person can have extended time. This person can have, there's members only for particular locations, and that's not to be restrictive or anything like that. But our students that work with our Brightspace, they have access to the Oasis, which is what it's called at Mountain View. And so they can access that space whenever they want throughout the day. And so a student who does need to not go to the C bathrooms because they're in the C hall and wants to use the gender neutral restroom, we know that, or we have that knowledge. And so when I see that student's name pop up and they've gotten a red flag or a yellow flag, it's more of a conversation rather than a robotic, the system said you had a flag. And so we don't want to take away, and that's what I say to students all the time when they're freaking out, right, about it, because there's this monitoring system, and it's really very easy to make it black and white, but it's just not, because we're human. Literally had a student the other day get her period for the first time, and her mom called me, said, you put her, she had 2 red flags on this one day, but she just got her period. I was like, no worries, not a thing, right? Because we're human and we want to support our kids. And so oftentimes teachers can write in comments, oh, I made an error, I made a mistake, or I was going here because of this particular situation. And so we're very accommodating to that. And it opens up a channel of communication and actually an opportunity to get to know our students better.
Thank you. And I think that's the point that I kind of wanted to see, is that the advantage of having things digitized kind of levels the playing field for all kids when there are particular concerns like that. So thank you.
Can you go back one slide, Eric? And can you talk about how the Securely Pass, how that's shared with parents or caregivers, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so we introduced it at Back to School Night and in parent newsletters, just as this is a new digital pass for your kid. And really, we're not trying to make it into a gotcha. We want it to be a supportive system when we know, first and foremost, we have students that are making dangerous decisions when they're out of class. And that's just a reality of where we're living. And so when particular students, when I see that they've been out for more than 6 minutes, I'm going in and finding them, right? That's just the reality of time. But because of this system, we're able to pull student IDs and numbers and say, your child has missed X amount of instructional minutes this week. please we want to reach out to you and have a meeting about what we can do and get to the root of the problem of what it is that's happening for your kid. Because often it's never that they don't want to be in the space because they don't like school. It's why is that the reason? Can they access their learning? And opening up the conversation of here's what's happening, why, and what can we do about it? I think you have a follow-up, and I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I'm thinking about, thank you, Cameron, for bringing up the restrooms in our schools. And I'm curious if this system, I'm not a fan. I'm probably like the only family who doesn't have like a Ring doorbell or whatever, but like, I'm curious. I'm curious if you're seeing, or maybe it's too soon, activities in the bathrooms. Like, are you able to see if that's cut down because of the system?
So most of the time, what's happening in the restrooms that is not just using the restroom is vaping. And one thing that this program does is it allows us to say, oh, Cameron and Jessica were vaping in the stall the other day. So now I can set it up where Cameron can't get a pass at the same time Jessica can. Or if Cameron's bullying Jessica, I can put together a safety plan and make sure that Cameron can go into the hallways knowing full well that Jessica's not there. So there's also those types of bells and whistles to this that actually opens up a kid who otherwise wouldn't use the restroom because they're afraid they're going to run into a bully, now be able to go, knowing full well that they can go and come back without running into the people that are making them feel unsafe.
Is Securely just being used at Mountain View?
Yeah.
Is it a pilot program to see about expanding it to other schools?
Well, I
Be more
think
of a
the
question.
director of IT, the director of IT would be the one to answer that. I mean, I've been working and talking with them for a while. Oh, he's back there, yep. I think you called me a troublemaker once for this one. Anywho, we piloted it in the spring with teachers that wanted to opt into this. And it went really, really well. So we were able to use our discretionary funds at Mountain View only to launch it fully this year.
Also, I can tell you that there's a lot of interest on the part of other high schools, and I believe a few middle schools. I have asked Monica if she'll do a demonstration of this to our other high school administrators coming up at the end of November in our next work session. But that is a question that we need to explore is capacity.
And the one thing that I'm sure IT will want me to say, I think you're behind me, is Synergy does have a program similar to this. And we looked and looked at both. ePass has been doing this longer, and it's just a better program. And so Synergy's version of this just is not what we needed right now in this space. It doesn't mean that it's not going to get there. So the implementation things and how we've rolled it out to students and staff, that can be replicable. And we've learned a lot, obviously. But whether it's Securely Pass or Synergy or whatever, these types of programs are becoming more and more available and made by companies like that.
My only addition, Monica, thank you for mentioning the last part. The only addition I would say is Mountain View was the first school that reached out about this system, and it's been several years. We've had 3 other schools that have also formally requested and really wanting it. We started with the tools that we had, that's Synergy. Monica's team did demo that with some of our staff. It was found to it just wasn't doing what we needed to do. And so this is, I would call it a pilot. And every time I see Monica, we check in and we have some support with it. And it's working well.
So are you sitting looking at this, like who is monitoring this all day long, I guess, is my question.
That's a great question. I want to be cognizant on time. I'll answer this, but I also know that we have the code of conduct to get to, which is, But yes, I have it on my phone, I have it on my iPad, I have it on my laptop. Our campus monitors are on it, our dean of students is on it, and so forth. And it also has notifications. So if something is happening and a student has been out too long, I get a bing. And teachers can also do that if they'd like. So there's a teacher dashboard and admin dashboard and everything. But every week I'm pulling the data and data tracking to see what's working, what isn't, and what conversations and communications home and with students we need to have.
And thank you all for answering these questions. And but yeah, just wonderful work. And so hopefully this leads into what we're going to talk about with the code of conduct. And for everyone in this room, it shows how engaged our board is, that I think this is probably the second or third time that most of you have kind of been engaged in a code of conduct conversation. So hopefully you don't have to hear me much more. It'll be something different next time, right? But for us, with all the work that our administrators do to run their schools, right, we wanted to create a resource and a foundation to take some of the guesswork out of their job and to align a lot of their work. And I mean, everything you just saw on the screen is so much work. Monica's having to monitor kids in the halls all the time. And so if we could create a resource when they have to interact with students that are maybe not meeting our expectations, we wanted to create a resource that really helped with that. So this code of conduct, helps align our Tier 1 efforts, helps give us common expectations district-wide, helps allow our staff to have some predictability in their routines. And we really mean that concept of thriving. And so if everything is outlined and delineated out for us, we can really help our schools do this. So in a moment, we're going to interact as if you're an admin team. So we're going to have the middle school team, the elementary team, and the high school team. So be ready. So pretend, that you're all an admin team, our board members and our working administrators. So we're going to run through some resources, and then I'm going to give you a scenario, and you're going to have to kind of come up with a solution to that scenario, all right? You've all seen this 2 or 3 times. This is just for the format we're at. Everything that our administrators just talked about is that green section, that foundation, right? So Heidi kicked us off with that co-creation of school-wide norms. We talked about data. We talked about recognition. That is what our schools are doing. We worked through the task force and outlined this is the foundation in Ben Lapine schools. At times, students are going to maybe not meet our expectations, and we're going to find different ways to intervene along the path. Level 1 is kind of a minor staff-managed response, all the way down to level 4, which is a major expellable type of offense, right? So that's kind of what the code of conduct starts with on page 7. So you may need, hint, page 7 to review, in the code of conduct that I gave you all later. And you pre-read it. Everybody did the pre-reading too, so we're good. And then the next one is, and this will be critical for me with all the work we do, we didn't want to just think about incidents as what is the punishment, what is the consequence. We wanted to think about what interventions can we introduce to support our students, and then what consequences may be an outcome of that. So on page 8, in the scenario work, you might be thinking about what intervention is appropriate based on this scenario, and what disposition or consequence is appropriate for this scenario. All right, now the fun. Okay, so there in front of you, there's a packet that says Team 1, Team 2, Team 3. I'm going to read through the directions. I'm going to read through every scenario just so we can hear what the other groups are having to wrestle with. And then I'm going to give you 10 minutes to work as a team. So school board members and the administrator that's in the building. Your level leader will be who you call. So in reality, if you're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? People will typically call myself or call the level leaders. So you can phone a friend, right? So you can phone who's near you. I can walk around and maybe answer questions or something like that. Does that make sense in general? Okay, so at the bottom, and we can pass these out in a moment. So you're gonna get a piece of paper that says, here are our scenarios. So let's pass those out now if that's okay, sorry. This one that starts with BLS Student Code of Conduct Review and Scenarios. All right, so I'm gonna start at the bottom. So what you're gonna do once you know your scenario, you'll review your team scenario, which is listed above. You'll utilize the investigations in BLS section of the Code of Conduct, and I printed one out. So we created a resource for what a typical investigation could look like. Administrators don't use this resource every time, but it really shows every step that we would want to take in an investigation. Obviously, you're not going to be able to interview witnesses and things like that now, so you could reference, oh, we would want to talk to multiple students, or if you want me to come up, I can fill the gap and maybe do a pretend interview for you. So you could use this to kind of outline your decision-making, and at the end, you'll be able to talk about what intervention, what consequence you might have done for that incident. Number 3, you're going to refer to the student conduct offenses, so pages 16 through 26 of the Code of Conduct. So based on the scenario, what is the violation here? And then finally, you're going to review page 8 of the Code of Conduct and just determine your intervention and response. All right? Here we go. You've all been hired. Congratulations. Okay, so team 1, these are all real but adjusted scenarios that have maybe happened over the last few years. So team 1, this is the middle school scenario. They'll be working through a 6th grade student is proudly walking through the halls with a t-shirt. Their parents bought them over the summer, so first week of school maybe. The shirt is from a sandwich shop they visited out of town. So they're very proud of this shirt. Under the picture of the sandwich, the following edited quote appears: "Best expletive sandwiches in the world." So imagine that's a swear word that we would not want on a shirt at school. You, as the administration team, noticed, I know, yeah. I had to, yeah. So you noticed the shirt during passing period between 3rd and 4th period. So that's gonna be your scenario that you all have 10 minutes to work through. Elementary team, all right, so this one's, I gave him titles, I was so excited. Okay, but we are best friends, okay. So this one, it's recess time for your 3rd graders. They're playing Gaga Ball. Oh, it is Gaga Ball, okay. With 1 minute to go in the recess time. Yeah, yes. I don't let my kids play Gaga Ball, I'm the worst. You see a commotion in the Gaga Ball pit. 2 students are wrestling over a ball and both students are shoving and kicking at each other on the ground. Once you are able to separate the students, one student, visibly frustrated and crying, is repeatedly telling you that the other student started it. The other student, less frustrated, keeps saying that everything is fine and that the other student is their friend. Per your own observations throughout the year, the students are often together, but sometimes get overly competitive with each other, but are then back on relatively positive terms the next day, right? Okay, so that's the Gaga Ball scenario. And then finally, our high school group. Title, I won't read the title. So a sophomore lit and comp teacher connects with you to report a student's essay as either being plagiarized or completely written by some sort of AI software. The student, when asked to discuss the paper, eventually admits to utilizing ChatGPT for parts of the paper, but that they did write some words of their own. The teacher, thinking about past practice from a different district they worked in last year, wants to assign the student a 0 for the assignment and to give them the option of redoing the essay for a maximum score of a C if they choose to follow the instructions without using AI this time around. And I know Steven's into grading, so I was like, I want to do this. Okay, so I'm going to set a 10-minute timer. You all are the admin team. Please utilize your level leaders if you have questions, and then we'll go. I'll cue us when we have 2 minutes left. 4 minutes, 4 minutes. All right, we have 3 minutes. Remember, we need an intervention and a consequence as well. We got 1:30. We'll wrap it up. All right, let's wrap it up, and we will be, you're ready, you're getting ready to call parents now. So get ready. Okay. So we'll start here. So our middle school team, pretend you're in Jessica's office. You're making a decision. No, but for the middle school team, you're getting ready to make your parent phone calls. What is, as you all worked through the investigation, you don't have to present, but your team presents. So what were your kind of takeaways from the scenario? This was the shirt scenario. And then what interventions and consequences, and which code did you all land on in the code of conduct?
level 1 and level 1 and just more of a teachable moment. But then we moved on to a different example that was a little more exciting, a little more juicy.
I know.
Good job, Eric.
Yeah.
A
I
little
mean, I
more
don't,
juicy.
I know.
So,
It was tough.
so I'm
think-
sorry. I'm sorry. That was far too tame. So we
It's-
had to go juicier to have a really engaging conversation, which
And I'll,
we did.
and I'll be honest, like my job is not boring and these are some of the tamer things I could think of, but I didn't know how far to go. But what I'll say is, yeah, we learned something. So imagine you're ready to phone call the parents and just communicate that, and then here's your twist. So we'll put you all on the, so you have to answer, does this change your example, right? Or does this change your outcome? So team 1, during lunchtime, so you get this information later, you've all talked, and then during lunchtime, a pair of classroom teachers come find you to report that the student was twice asked in each of their classes to cover the shirt with their sweatshirt. So the staff was trying to intervene. The student complied both times in class, but then would take the sweatshirt off in the halls prior to joining their next class. A student witness also reported that the student kept showing off their t-shirt and that they had no intention of covering it up when the adults were watching. So basically they're covering it, showing it, covering it, showing it. Never happens, right? So is this still a dress code issue? So now your staff are pretty frustrated, right? Like, oh my gosh, this kid is now disobeying right? I'm queuing you up to the code of conduct, but they're not listening to our expectations. So is this still gonna be a teachable moment, or are you all gonna look at something different?
I also think there's a difference between multiple teachers and then an administrator who has a different kind of level of power. And so it could be a teachable moment with administrator, but also following up with a level of insubordination with multiple teachers, and also just get the shirt off, right? Some kids you can turn it around, turn it inside out, or you can trust somebody to wear a jacket. It's been, if time and time again in every single period by period 7, then we know with this kid that's not going to be the best solution.
Perfect. And this one was very close to something that actually, Jessica, you want to go?
I was just gonna, the only thing I would add, and when this happens, the many times this has happened, the other piece is a follow-up with the family is the other part that we just make sure that we're closing that loop on, hey, I wouldn't have to do it if it was one time they changed it, but if it is like no, you're gonna go change your shirt now, and then follow up with family, or the hat, that's the big one. The hats want to stay around all the time.
And thinking back the code of conduct, right? This phone call happens quite often with various things, and it's not a dress code issue anymore. It's not following our instruction of our staff, and so now to get to point to that and say, not only is this a dress code violation, but now I think it's code 8, right? You're disrupting the learning environment and not listening to your teacher, right? So then we can point to that and move forward. So
The other piece that we did talk about too was where this is documented, and it's not necessarily even at that next level. I wouldn't put it in Synergy. I still feel like it's a lower level situation, but we have the way, or like, which I have questions about on later, but we have our internal document that we're keeping everything in. So those are my questions with Synergy, is how are we tracking the things that we don't actually want to go in? Sorry.
They're important.
But we track those so we can see a pattern of behavior, and if that's coming up, then it can escalate to something else.
yeah, and that's what's nice about this whole process, is we'll keep talking, and these administrators in here and all of them are wonderful. And there's some things, you can use this as a reference point, and not everything's gonna be something that's going into Synergy. But we do want as much data as possible in there, but it's a reference point, and then we follow our processes. So good job, middle school team, we're good. Yeah, you didn't have to. It's good. Good. He was there. No phone a friend. All right, elementary team, this was Gaga Ball 101. So yeah, so how did we choose to respond based on this scenario, and get ready for your phone's ringing in the background. Get ready. Okay.
She's really subtle, isn't she? Okay, well, my best friend and I were really fighting, but we really weren't hurting each other. So we determined it's a level 1. And we looked at the codes, and it's a 14, right? And we decided that just a little restorative conversation between the two kids, isolating them, we found out that it just happened. Isolating them was a good idea for a little while, and then having the conversation with both, asking the same questions of both kids, and then coming to some kind of an agreement. So that they were going to be buddies tomorrow. So it was pretty simple. Now you're going to make it difficult, right, Eric?
Oh, yeah. So it's tough. I'll preface this with.
Eric's known for making things
I'm ready.
difficult.
Yes.
Oh, Eric, I'm sorry.
I I try to take a lot of phone calls if parents are frustrated in these situations. I know everyone around here does this too. And when I talk to parents that are going to leave a voicemail like you're about to get at your admin building, I promise you it's coming from a place where they're just trying to advocate for their child, right? Like no matter what your investigation entails. And so at the end of the day, it's like we get these phone calls all the time. So I'm not making light of these types of emails or phone calls, but at the same time, we still have to respond based on our investigation and facts. And so that's where this one's coming from. So let's pretend you made your outcome, you called people, and then the next morning you get a voicemail from one of the students' parents asking to speak with you about the assault their child was a victim of at school yesterday in the Gaga Ball pit. The parent references a social media post they made expressing their concerns over bullying at your school. Your investigation confirmed that no injuries had occurred and were able to safely follow your intervention plan for the remainder of the school day. So basically what you did worked, and it was proven to be true by the actions that you had. And the students are also reportedly positive together. They were safe at Kids Inc. after school. So everything is good from the kid end, but now you have parents feeling like this was an assault. You didn't take this seriously. So how would you react to this? Not that we need to change your decision because your investigation proved that it was accurate, but how would you maybe respond to this family, maybe using the code of conduct to support you in this situation?
Well, it would seem to me that would come up to a level 2 then. Since the whole family is now involved, it's something that can't just be solved at school. So I'm looking here for, there's got to be one of those conduct offenses. I don't know which one it is. You know which one it is? She does.
Well, I do, and I still am going to stick with my original plan. I would probably invite the parents to come in and talk like face to face with them. I always take notes when I do an investigation with kiddos, and and I show the kids too, or I let them know like, hey, I'm writing down what you say because I don't want to forget. I'm very forgetful. And I have those notes, and those have come in real handy around talking with parents about it. I always let them know that I can do some more investigation. I can do some more talking to the adults that were out there that saw it, and follow up with them. It's tricky. We get these phone calls and things all the time. We get they come home with a story that sounds very scary and different than what we saw. So I don't want to make light of it, like Eric said, but also I want them to, often they'll hear me say, I want you to trust and give us the benefit of the doubt that we have done everything in our possible, I don't know what words, and my words are starting to fail me now too, to help and support, and these kiddos they're doing okay, and I wouldn't consider it an assault. And I could refer to this too and say that no one was hurt.
And this is one of the harder, things to respond to, right? But I think our administrators do a wonderful job of like honoring our families and honoring the voices of everyone. And we try to do that as well. It's like, we know how important your child is to you. And so this was a tough one. I'm not gonna, so there you go. So, and I don't remember if it gets way more tough or we're not. So thank you. That's harder than ours. Yeah, so I apologize. I'll do better next time with the middle school. Put that in the feedback. This scenario was so horrible. Okay. High school group, we had the ChatGPT paper. So how did you all respond to that one?
So it appeared to be a first offense. So we used it as a learning opportunity with a level 1 to have a conversation with the student and give them an opportunity to redo the paper in a classroom setting where it could be observed.
You're not going to give them a 0? Or not? Okay. I like that too. Yeah.
They get the attempt, but
yes. Yeah. Not the first one, but overall, right? So yeah. Okay, so this one, you ready? I used to work at summer camps, and so I used to do fake strikes of like, we don't like this type of food. But so I thought of a strike. Here we go for this one. So a week later, out of context, that made no sense. Okay, a week later, you notice the student in question passing around a petition and collecting signatures to allow for the use of AI to write essays. As students are connecting and discussing this topic, a group of students informs you this particular student is asking for people to join them in a strike of lit and comp until changes are made to the school's policy. So how would you address that? So
Defer to the administrator on that one.
We've had similar situations. And I think honestly, getting them into a space where you're able to talk about what are your goals of this, what information can we give you? Because oftentimes there's gaps in information and knowledge. And so really focusing in, let me tell you why we consider this plagiarism. Let's walk you through exactly why and how we want to empower your voices with your own voice, not a robot's. And then figure out who's actually signing the petition so that you can have those one-on-one conversations. If it is bigger than that, going into lit and comp classes and having the conversations and squashing it in the space is really helpful. And then if they want to strike or protest or anything like that, talk them through what a peaceful protest and strike looks like and what resources they have to be able to do that in a respectful way in which they feel heard and seen in that space.
And I knew you were going to help answer this one. Monica's so good at, no, Monica's so wonderful about being curious and not afraid of things. So I just knew you would answer it as a teaching moment. So thank you. That was awesome. Okay, so there we go. So that was scenario time. I think we're jumping right in. I don't want to keep everybody too late. So we're jumping right into the closing with Katie, I believe.
All right, so I'm going to lead us through our closing activity, which is an encouragement relay. And this is a Wayfinder activity that promotes collaboration. Can you go to the next slide? So basically what we're going to do is we're going to line up into, Monica knows this, we're going to line up in two lines on opposite sides of our space here. And then we're kind of going to be facing each other. So I'll get us set up in just a second after I go through this. And then one person from each team goes to the middle of the room and meets up with another person from the other line and kind of gives some kind of encouraging, positive gesture, maybe high five, bump, fist bump, something like that, and say something positive to that person. And then they leave and go to the end of the line until we've gone through all of the different people. Okay, so everybody's had an opportunity to do a positive encouragement statement. Any questions about that? Yeah, so this is what we're going to do. I'll set us up, okay? So we're going to start with Tammy being at the first person of one of the lines. So Tammy, maybe take your line, and I'll be the first person on the other line. I'll be the first person on the other line. I'm going to face Tammy. You guys come all behind me. One at a time. Yeah, we're going to do it one at a time. Okay, so here's our relay. Ready? So Tammy and I are going to do an encouraging statement, something with each other, and then we're going to break off to the end of the lines, and then Amy and Shirley break off, and then Monica and Tina get it? Yeah. Okay, here we go. Good job, everybody. All right, so that concludes our session, but we need to do the PD. This is our feedback
Okay,
piece, right?
everybody, so if you would grab your phone and go ahead and use this QR code to give us a little bit of feedback. As you see, when you start to do your evaluation, there are like 5 main areas that we're focusing on. So relevance, application, clarity, as well as some adult learning practices that we want to make sure all of our professional development has. So what types of things did you experience related to engagement as you fill this out? The reality is that we're probably going to delete your answers from our pool of, like our database pool after we look at them. So don't freak out on that. The point is really just that you all are able to see what has been pushed out for our staff.
All right, thank you. Well, first and foremost, I want to thank all the level leaders, thank all the building administrators, thank all the people who were involved in all this. First, I want to thank the staff for actually setting everything up like this. We talked about this a little bit in our retreat, and I like this for us to have conversations, and I'm glad that we got people who were in the buildings doing the work. Just thank you so much. We appreciate all that you should do. And I just want to thank you for your leadership and thank you continue to do the things we're trying to do to make this a better district. I think the one thing I'm noticing, and hopefully we can get to this point in our district, is when something happens in a building, in the streets, we go, we're Ben LaPine, we don't do that. We don't say that. We want to hopefully get to that point one day where we can say that. This is not what we do. This is not our character. This is who we are. And I think that's what we're trying to hopefully build and seeing that we can do that here. But thank you very much. So now I will open the floor for the directors. And like I always do, from my left, from my right, Shirley.
Thank you. I want to say this is very comfortable. It was a great experience, and it's really special. We keep saying, we meaning the board, no, I keep saying, we like the information to come from the cabinet level. But when we're talking about the kinds of things that you do every day, to have you explain what your thinking is and what your reactions were and how you processed certain situations is really important. Thank you so much. And Eric, thank you for putting it together like this, and Lisa. This satisfied my whole position, which I shared with Marcus a couple days ago, that we wanted to hear from the people who actually do the work. So, thanks.
Thank you, Shirley. Appreciate it very much. Cameron.
I just fully agree with what Shirley just said. It is so meaningful to hear from folks who are living and breathing this every day, and also their lens in what teachers are facing every day as well, and how they're supporting teachers and all the educators in the building. Really valuable. And this has just been great for me to read page after page of the student conduct in preparation for this, because it really got me thinking. So thank you for that motivation for tonight.
Thank you, Cameron. Appreciate you. Keena?
Yeah, I think like many other parents and caregivers, right, this past week and recent events have been really challenging. You know, I'm so grateful for SROs and staff and students who were there and intervened, and going through an exercise like this was really timely, and I hope that because we have tools like this in place, that will mitigate other events from happening in the future. Just, yeah, you know, we're committed to improving policies and that reflect the values of our communities. And we're going to continue focusing on cultivating an environment of safety and wellness for all of our community and Bend Wine schools.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Amy?
Yeah, agree with what all of my fellow directors have said, and thank everyone for being here tonight. I will say I like this setup for a work session. I feel like it works better in terms of engagement. And to build off of what Keena said, because we're kind of dancing around what happened this week, and I just want to say to the community who might be listening, as a parent, it is your job to make sure your students in our schools are safe. And if a student brings a gun to school, it is because as a parent, you're not keeping your student safe and you are not keeping our community safe. And that's a really hard thing to say out loud, but as an adult, you have to make sure your gun is secured and your student does not have access to it. And I hope for any parents out there who are worried about security in our schools that you're having these conversations with your neighbors, you're having these conversations with your friends, you're making sure that before your students, your children go to someone else's house, you're asking if they have guns and if they are secured. And I look forward to more messaging from the district to reinforce this in our community, because clearly we need to continue to reinforce this. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Anyone else before we go? All right, well, again, I want to thank you all for being here. Appreciate your time. I want to thank all the teachers again for their commitments in our buildings, administrators, custodial staff, classified staff, all the different people, our level leaders here at the central office as well. But I want to echo something what Amy says. And I know our teachers do a great job of this, and I know our administrators do a great job of this. Keep building relationships with your kids. Please keep building relationships with your kid. Get to know your kids, regardless if they're in your home or if they're in your schools. Please keep building relationships with your kids, because we got to, because unfortunately we don't want anything tragic to happen within our schools. Because I know we're doing everything in our power to try to mitigate some of that, but please build relationships with your kids. All right. Thank you for a great evening. This meeting is adjourned.